So even if you're not in HR, truth of the matter is these principles I'm going to share here apply to you as well. Many HR professionals really don't identify as negotiators. They see themselves as working through issues like employee policy or recruitment or retention or professional development and maybe a tad bit of conflict resolution too. But as someone who works with HR professionals all the time, let me tell you, all of these activities are in fact negotiations. Let me tell you why this is the case by shifting your assessment of what negotiation actually is. And of course, you'll want to stay to the end as I share some key skills that every HR professional and anyone who works in any workplace ought to cultivate. I'm Bob Bordone. I'm a senior fellow at Harvard Law School. I'm the founder and former director of Harvard Law School's Negotiation and Mediation Clinical Program. I taught negotiation, conflict resolution, mediation, and many other courses at Harvard Law School for more than 2 decades, and I'm a founder and principal of the Cambridge Negotiation Institute. So let me start with a definition for negotiation. It's a really broad one. We define negotiation as any communication, spoken or written, verbal or nonverbal, with an intention to influence or to persuade. Okay, so if negotiation is all about influence, this is a big reframe on everything HR does, because you just hired the employee and you're trying to persuade them to say yes to the salary and benefits package.
Is your best offer, Mark?
That persuasion tactic is a negotiation. Internally, you have a senior manager talking to you about issues within their department, and you're trying to really keep them happy. Guess what you're doing? You're negotiating with them. Now, an employee has come to you with a complaint about another colleague. They're in conflict with each other. Your job is to try to work with both of them to help them work it out, to persuade them to make some changes to the way they behave toward each other. Guess what you're doing? You're negotiating.
You see what I mean?
I could go on and on and on, right? If you're working with the other colleagues in the HR department and you're thinking about what are the health and wellness initiatives we're going to take in the new year, and you have a certain set of ideas, but your colleagues have different ideas, and you're trying to get them to adopt your ideas, you know what you're doing with them? You're negotiating with them.
Exactly.
So negotiation, influence, persuasion, it's everything you are doing in HR. So what are some key tips to help you get better, some key skills that you need? The first one is really critical, and it's moving from positions to interests. So what is a position and what is an interest? Frankly, a position is what someone says that they want from you. They would like a salary of X thousand dollars. They would like to not have their cubicle next to their annoying colleague.
So I guess this will just be my office.
They would like to have Fridays off because of elder care needs. All of those things are positions. The interest is the reason why they want the position. It is the underlying driver of a particular position. As an HR professional, your job is to get the people you are trying to influence to move away from whatever their demand is and to meet their underlying interest or concern. And to do that in a way that also meets the underlying interest and concern of the employer or the department. The second really important skill for HR professionals when it comes to negotiation is identifying criteria to help you choose which creative solution might be the best one. So what do I mean by criteria? Criteria is some external standard of legitimacy, some kind of norm to help make sure that the outcomes we have are not random or arbitrary or the result of some powerful player forcing his or her or their outcome on you. And this is critically important when you're in HR. I'm going to share with you a real life example of an HR professional who actually didn't have this skill and almost got themselves and their department into some trouble. So some years ago, I was working in an organization where I had a team of people. I made a new hire, and in the process of making this hire, the employee was quite effective at negotiating a particularly high starting salary. And HR called me and they said, this is the salary this person is getting. And I said, well, what is that based on? And they said, well, they are quite insistent. They wanted this. I said, okay, thank you. And the employee I had hired was, for the record, a male. And when I looked at the pay of others on my team, I had a woman who had been in the same role for several years, who, if this employee was being brought into the workplace at this salary, the woman would be paid significantly less than the incoming man, with no difference either in background or experience. And I said, I appreciate that this new employee sounds like they are a very effective negotiator. Do you have any concern that now there's a woman in my team who's been here for several years who'll be paying less? And they're like, no, I think that's okay. I'm like, okay. Do you think it would be okay if that were publicized? Oh. Well, what's going to be the solve on that? I don't know. I have an idea. I think you might need to actually not only adjust this other person's salary, but actually adjust it up higher than the person who's entering. Okay, we'll do that on the start date of the new employee. I think that's a pretty bad look, I said. It suggests that the only reason why this person is getting a raise is because clearly there's a male employee coming in who's probably getting more.
Okay, all right.
Okay, interesting a story. They did make the adjustment. The reason why I'm sharing this with you, it's an example of what happens when an HR professional doesn't actually have negotiation skills, doesn't know that they have to embed any kind of offer within a set of existing and defensible criteria. It means without the requisite negotiation skills, the HR professional ends up with a result that creates internal gender pay inequities in the organization. The other really important negotiation skill for HR professionals is really good active listening. If you want to learn more about active listening, watch my video on active listening linked here. Last really important skill for HR professionals when it comes to negotiation and conflict resolution is being impartial. That's because a lot of the time as an HR professional, you are negotiating different interests that are coming at you from different sides. That means that you have to help other parties move from positions to interests. You have to help other parties identify criteria. You have to help other parties become better listeners. And all of that means being credible with many stakeholders. And that means being impartial. So the cost of bad HR for the individual and for the organization is extremely high. So if you've had an experience with either great or terrible HR, make sure you put it in the comments below. So to further build your skills in negotiation, watch this next video on the art of persuasion for professional success. Also, before you leave, make sure you subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and like this video so you never miss new lessons in negotiation and conflict resolution. Okay, it's not difficult to keep watching. Click, click.